from Into Formula, and welcome to our Research and Development Centre. We do all forms of research and development, all the way from designing and developing our own race cars, to simulators, to running cars in racing series and rallying all over the world. We also do a lot in the Asian Classic Car Championship, so do look out for us. For any information, do contact us with the number down below. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a very special treat for you today. The SRE versus SRA race in the Porsche 911 GT3 cars. These are the Carrera Cup cars. One make race. It's going to be absolutely fantastic around the old Circuit Park Zandvoort. It's going to be an amazing race. And yeah, we're going to have some fun. My name is Max Baum. I'm going to be joined in the virtual studio by Chan Wei Han. Say hi, Yan.
Hi everyone. Yes, we are here with a special race because it does enjoy the participation of friends from Sim Racers Asia on top of our SRE drivers. So we do have quite a field ahead of us here tonight because it's a little bit lesser than we would have expected, I guess, in comparison to the MX-5 races. But nonetheless, I think we're going to have quite an exciting series of events that will take place tonight with these unique Porsche 911 Cup cars.
Yeah, so basically, for those of you who are not quite in the loop, Porsche, in their infinite wisdom, have managed to confuse us to no end. I do have it on good authority that even Porsche staff call these cars Carrera Cup cars just to avoid confusion. So these are standard road-going Porsche 911 GT3 cars that have been taken off the production line, fitted with a roll cage, a big rear wing, a nice flat floor, and some bigger brakes, with an endurance racing fuel tank and a special carbon fiber roof with an escape hatch. And these cars are then subsequently raced all over the world, from the Super Cup series in Europe to the Porsche Carrera Cup Asia series, which is also very, very popular with gentlemen drivers and professionals alike. Now we're just watching Ilham Labier practice his overtaking maneuvers in that wonderful adrenaline impact livery machine. Nice to have him rep our colours, so to say. And yeah, but what's going to be interesting for me is that we're going to have a whole load of new faces here on an Adrenaline Impact stream for the first time. I see some familiar faces and I see some new ones as well.
Yep, certainly. And of course, you know, at the end of the day, it's us one big Asian family here on iRacing, and we're just here to have fun in whatever ways we can, you know, more so the fact that we do observe that over here in Asia, the participation in iRacing is kind of less compared to various other regions. So, you know, whenever there is the opportunity for all of us to come together and have a good racing session, it's always one that will be welcome.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the wonderful part about this is we can bring people in from all over Asia without having to rent a racetrack, drag 40-foot containers all around Asia, and really get together quite easily. So it's more of a case of why not instead of why. We like to get everyone together, and even though we might not have the numbers of the guys down in Oceania or in Europe, especially not in America, but we like to think of the big sim racing community all across Asia as being one nice, tight little family. And we see a few of our Asian friends up here. That's Wong in the first car. Car number one, and position number one is a 1:38.332. Well, I happen to know a little bit about this track pre the rebuild into Formula One, and I happen to know that's actually a very, very quick time. In fact, looking through all my stuff, that is about a couple of tenths off the actual real life Porsche Super Cup time around this track. So there you go. If you're wondering how realistic sim racing is, there's your answer.
Yeah, so what's really interesting, in fact, about these cars on iRacing is that these 911 Cup cars actually came out to the iRacing service moments before the real life counterpart came out racing. So what that meant was that, us sim racers on online platforms, we were able to actually enjoy these cars and experience these cars before the real ones went out racing in real life. I think it was back in 2017 that we saw these beasts become rolled out.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. Safarif in there. He's repping the champions team colors from the AMC, like his style there. That's the sort of championship combination right there, isn't it? The Autohouse FCR performance colors and Cypher Orifin, our driver's champion from the AMC. He's going to try and take the challenge up to the SRA guys, all in good fun, of course. But yeah, it's absolutely fascinating to see back in 2017 when Porsche worked very close with iRacing to try and get the model right. And although I haven't really had much experience in the car myself, I do have it on good authority that things like the tyre model and the suspension dampening model is a lot closer than a lot of the other cars on iRacing, because Porsche and iRacing did work quite closely together to try and get the car right.
In fact, the relationship between Porsche and iRacing would seem to have stretched, in fact, very, very deep, very far as well, because there are so many events, or there's so much effort that goes between iRacing and Porsche to kind of get to, in fact, you can even see it from the top level Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Porsche Cup series that iRacing hosts on alternate Saturdays, the top level sim racing series. That came, in fact, as a result of the partnership between Porsche and iRacing. And it does go to show, when collaboration happens between the racing industry and sim racing, so much can happen.
Yes, it's absolutely fascinating to me, and definitely a good sign, a good model for manufacturers to take when it comes to working with sim racing and taking sim racing seriously as a marketing opportunity, as well as a chance to sort of really show the brand off. And I think Porsche have done very well with iRacing to sort of get it all up there. I know a lot of Carrera Cup drivers do take the opportunity to dip into iRacing and have a go, and it is even quite a useful tool just to run the cars on your own in a test drive session or something like that, to actually learn the tracks, because it is quite useful. Now, for the cars themselves, they are very different to an actual GT3 car. In fact, the cars that originally made up the Carrera Cup series were just that, GT3 cars, built to FIA GT3 specifications, but back in the 90s, when they were very much road cars that were mildly modified to go racing. And now, of course, GT3 cars are very high-end, almost completely changed from their stock car brethren. It's almost nice to see an old-school Porsche out there racing. Very much rear engine, although they have improved it with the 991 generation to try and get the handling just a little bit better. But definitely, if you really want to sample the true sort of modern Porsche 911 experience on the racetrack, this is the car to go for. And it's nice to see that the close cooperation giving the sim racers a real taste of that really light nose and that really massive amount of traction in the rear end. Aman Razam there, perhaps the unlucky bridesmaid from Season 1. I'm sure he'll come out swinging for Season 2 in the Adrenaline Impact iRacing Malaysia Championship. That's the series we normally run here on Adrenaline Impact, for those of you guys watching us from all across Asia. And for all of you guys out there, have a good evening, and hopefully you guys will enjoy this little fun race that we've have lined up for you guys. Ooh.
So of course we have 10 minutes to go in the practice, and the fastest lap is set by a certain Eric Wong, who had also had an extremely brilliant showing over in the Sim Racers Asia series that happened earlier this year. So he's kind of transferring some of that speed over into the Porsche racecraft, and he's doing a good job so far. And because the next fastest driver is Saiful Arifin, his lap time is not exactly far off. The lap times are actually quite close with each other, with just 3 to 4 tenths separating each other. So, I think around the front end we would see some good battling that will take place. Now, of course, we are with 19 drivers in this session. So, if you're watching, if you have a Porsche 911 and if you have Zandvoort circuit and you are thinking of racing here, feel free to hop onto that session. Entries are still open.
Yes, it'll be absolutely awesome to have you guys on board, and not to take anything away from the drivers who are, of course, out there right now. We have quite a few of the SRE guys there, but I was wondering if you could talk me through some of the SRA drivers that you see in the entry list right now, because speaking for myself, I certainly am a little bit new to sim racing, and definitely very new to the SRA guys. I know those guys are awesome. They've helped us out a lot in the past. We've actually broadcast a couple of their races earlier on, so it's it'll be nice to get to know these drivers.
So we're so grateful that Adrenaline Impact did broadcast our series the last season. It was really a pleasant surprise for us. After the race, we find that it was not just one broadcast that was actually done. There were actually a few, and or rather there were actually two broadcasts. One was the main one, and the other one was being done by you guys. And it was something that we all really appreciated. We got to see the racing from different perspectives. And yeah, so with regards to the drivers in this session, we can have a look at Simon Sanchez. Of course, the Sim Racers Asia crowd knows him as one of the key figures behind the Macau iRacing scene. He is part of the HMSRT, Hong Kong Macau Sim Racing team. And of course, formerly he was part of the Macau Sim Racing team. And of course, he lives in Macau. He does have some kart racing experience in Macau. I think in the past he was active in Macau Motorsports. And I think right now he's really active in iRacing as well. Pretty much part of the Macau sim racing scene, and really being part of forming a community, and a good community, in fact, that seeks to build up iRacing in Macau. And we've also got Leung Wai In, who is from Club UKNI. He's also from HMSRT, and of course he's one of the drivers who had raced previously in Sim Racers Asia as well. Of course, that series is right now is currently on hiatus for the moment, but what's so great is that here in Asia, you've got so many series that can kind of step up and offer options for all of us who enjoy racing here.
Yes, and of course we have a few of our drivers coming into there. It's absolutely fantastic to see the entirety of sim racing in Asia sort of come together in this way. And perhaps the global situation perhaps wasn't the best for everyone, but there were a few silver linings in the dark clouds over the horizon. And I guess this is one of them, actually bringing these sim races together. And it's absolutely fascinating because I know in Malaysia there wasn't necessarily that many sim racers who were sort of initially willing to start getting out there, but now we have everything from real-life touring car drivers, even guys like Michael and Faza Alang, who are very experienced real-life drivers, get into sim racing and sort of join this wonderful community. Everyone's starting to sort of help themselves out, help each other out. There's been a lot of help in building not only just the community but the industry as well in Malaysia specifically, but also all across Asia. It's been absolutely fantastic to watch. But speaking from the SRE point of view, we do have quite a few of our drivers, as you would naturally expect, one would suppose. Saiful Arifin, is our series champion from AIMC from the previous AIMC season. So he's out there right now. He's temporarily repping the team's champion, Outer House FCR. So we've had a fantastic time with all the drivers out there actually forming teams with each other, which is absolutely fantastic. Just behind him is Ilham Halabi, who is another very, very quick driver. He was leading the championship at a few points, but unfortunately had to skip a round and eventually sort of fell off the top three, but that's absolutely fantastic stuff there. Further down the field, we had our previous race winners, Amir Farid Yan and also Kelvinder Singh, who won our last event. Rather spectacular race that was. We were all pretty hoarse at the end of that race. Very, very dramatic stuff, and it's absolutely wonderful to see these guys really start to gain the experience out there. And of course, we've got the usual suspects: Malvinderjit Singh, Lloyd Lachlan, Shapawi, and also Tamiz Yusuf down in 16th there. He'll be trying to improve his time, I am sure. And Azrael Nazli, who did a fantastic job commentating on a lap around the circuit. There we go. For those of you from the SRA community who are probably wondering, I am a little bit infamous in one sense that I do tend to be quite sensitive to the phenomenon of the commentator's curse. So as soon as I say something really nice about, for instance, Matt Shapawi here, who's been absolutely fantastic in sort of not only helping out all the sim racers out there, but very, very good, consistent driver. Yeah, he hasn't crashed yet, so I'm not completely cursed. But yeah, so that's the running gag for those of you who probably aren't in the know. That unlike Chen Wei Han, I tend to curse drivers quite a lot.
I think we all do at times, man. It's just sometimes we just can't help ourselves. But I think dish out some of that black magic. But of course, pretty much, very much otherwise. I think it's always just interesting to see sometimes drivers. They're having such a good time, and suddenly we capture them at the crucial moments where things sometimes go south.
Yeah, and I do have to give a good shout out to our director for this evening, certain Mr. Karol Alam, who's been very good at catching out unsuspecting drivers like Aguri Young here, who's managed to just about catch the tail end of that. And it always sort of makes me wonder if these guys are actually listening to our commentary. Getting distracted, perhaps? Anyways, Eric Wong is still up there in first position, Saifur Arifin in second, and Ilham Halabi in third. We're coming into the last 1.5 minutes of practice before we head into the qualifying session and what I believe is a 20-minute race. Afizul Jai is now on board. There we go, in that rather fantastic livery. You've got to trust me on this, ladies and gentlemen. Trust the drifter to get the livery spot on. I think that's pretty brilliant. Cross between the pink pig and internet memes. Gotta love it.
Yeah, I think with paint schemes in iRacing, this is one of those places where many drivers they put forth the creativity, and memes do kind of ensue from there. I think there have been all sorts of paint schemes that drivers have on their cars, and it's just very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it was fascinating. I was introduced by Saifur Arifin to trading paints, and to be honest with you, I think if I got back into sim racing again, because I was doing a lot of Assetto Corsa stuff at the time when I was starting to get into iRacing for a while, and I never really got into all the whole trading paint scheme and all the rest of it. I think now, if I was to get back into sim racing, I'd probably spend 90% of my time just doing very strange paint schemes, because it looks like an awful lot of fun, and the creativity of these guys and the way they can present themselves professionally. Like a lot of the race teams that we've had come in, there's now like Outer House FCR, they're a real life team. a combination of two real-life teams that decided to enter sim racing alongside with Total Motorsports as well. And the cars are really coming out looking very nice indeed.
So certainly at this point we are transitioning from practice to qualifying. It will be a 15-minute long qualifying session or 10 laps, open qualifying session, so all drivers will be out on track. So there's 15 minutes, so what this means is that registration closes in 15 minutes time, and the cars are all beginning to roll out of the pits to set their lap time. So Eric Wong had the fastest lap time in practice, followed by Saiful Arifin and Ilham Halabi, so we should observe if they'll continue this trend as they move towards qualifying.
Yeah, they look like the two drivers most likely to try and get pole position. I know some of the drivers came in a little bit late. We are, as Weyhan just said, we are still open for registration, if you will. We'll keep the doors open right up till the end of qualifying. So if you guys do have the car and do have the track from SRE or SRA, or if you just want to bomb us, not photo bomb us, gate crash us, do head in. And we're going to have some fun out there. But meanwhile, we have, I believe, Eric Wong is out on the track right now. Norazam is out. There, Amir Faradian also out as well. So a lot of quick drivers taking the opportunity to try and get a quick flying lap in early when there's not a lot of traffic. Although, even though Zandvoort tends to be one of those places that really can generate traffic, if you will, slower speed corners, you do tend to see cars backing up there. I think we have a fairly decent number of cars where we shouldn't have too much traffic issues for this race. And definitely for qualifying, I think it'll be an easier time for a lot of these guys to try and look for that clean air and try and go for that lightning fast lap.
So a little bit about the driver who we're riding with now. This is Eric Wong. He's based in Singapore, a fellow countryman of mine, and I would very much look forward to meeting him in person. He's very fast in most cars that he does lay his hands on. He's part of the Hong Kong-based Kelly's racing team that had participated in Sim Racers Asia earlier this year, and I am very certain that he is also going to continue along with them as they proceed to the next seasons. So his lap time was a 1:38.332, and he's at this point He's coming towards, I guess, the fourth sector of the circuit. He's approaching the final sector, and we will see if he's able to best his practice lap time.
Yes, going through Shivlak and into what they call a Masters corner. No, sorry, into Ari Lyondike corner. I will get my bearings one day around this track. It's very confusing sometimes because Shivlak and the Kumho corner look almost identical, and that's because they almost are at the entry. They're the same width, and they're the same. They've got the same sort of grass verge on the exit. Is that it's led to some pretty entertaining incidents because whilst you could definitely overtake into Shivlak, you might really want to reconsider trying to overtake coming into Kumho or the entrance into the Irie Lyondike corner. But now we see Lloyd Lachlan. He's got his very particular livery there. He's one of those drivers who likes to keep a consistent look across all his cars. Again, another form of branding, almost like a real-life racing driver's helmet. Some of these drivers will have that sort of look across all their racing cars, and it's quite interesting to see that sort of personality come through. And it's really rather a breath of fresh air when you come across when you come from a sim where you really can't do much with the livery, or if it's very difficult to get the liveries right, and you come into something like this. But right now we have number 3, Aman Norazam. He is coming into the final few corners here on the run up to Kumho and into the Ari Lyondike bend. This is the bend that they've rebuilt for this year in order to have that fantastic. I believe it was a 15-degree banking that was going to bring bank corners back into Formula One. Unfortunately, due to the current situation, they weren't able to run the Dutch Grand Prix, but nevertheless, a very interesting racetrack with a long, long history.
Yeah, but what's so great about Zandvoort circuit is that they've retained a lot of elevation changes and high-speed corners, and all of that is all very necessary in kind of allowing high-speed racing action to take place, all the overtaking maneuvers and stuff like that. So certainly, they managed to keep the character of the circuit whilst updating it to fit Formula One safety standards.
Yeah, and it's amazing how little was changed in the end. I mean, as I understand it, partially the reason why they brought back the bank corners was due to the lack of runoff. When you have a bank corner with a barrier, as anyone would know from IndyCar or stock car racing, that reduces what's known as the graveyard angle, 45-degree angle accidents. So with the safer barriers and all that sort of stuff, that was a solution. A rather creative one at that, but the character of the circuit is still the same. As to see they're going through the first corner, Tarzan Bock, and now up at the top end here we see that's 999 Y in Lyon going through the final corner there. Let's see what lap time he can pull out. He'll need to go for another lap, I'm sure, but that's a 138.6 unchanged from the previous, changed from the previous attempt. Eric Wong there, he is still doing a 138. He's now in provisional pole position, 138.461.
That is a brilliant lap time of 138.461. It is still a tenth of a second shy of his practice fastest. And of course, the next fastest driver we have is Ahmad Norisam, who's managed to break the 139 barrier to get his lap time up to 138.980. Saiful Arifin 139.7, and they're all coming towards the halfway point of the qualifying session, so they will have some more laps to turn to set their qualifying lap times.
Absolutely. We're coming into what would have been the first of the new bank corners. Of course, these corners are actually cambered quite heavily. You could say that they are banked. And that is Hugenholtzbock. John Hugenholtz, a very famous track designer. He actually didn't design this track, but he was president of the club that ran the track. And a bit of obscure trivia, the guy who actually designed the layout of the original Zandvoort track is in fact a man by the name of Sammy Davis, no relation to the singer, and he was an ex-works driver for Bentley back in the 30s. But John Hugenholtz definitely took a lot of inspiration from this circuit when he went into circuit design. Of course, he's famous for quite a lot of tracks, his magnum opus being, of course, Suzuka circuit, in my humble opinion. But definitely a fantastic series of people from this part of the world that have designed some fantastic tracks over the years. Now we saw, as we watched Kelvin Singh go across the line, will he be able to improve on his lap time? He does, but not by much. He's still in the 139.8 or in that region. I believe we are now with Azri, coming into the top half of the circuit. That's Shivlak corner. Sorry, no, that is still Kumho corner. I'm looking down there. I do apologize there. But let's see what he can do in terms of lap time. Shammi Azri manages a 140.323. He'll go around for another run at breaking into the 139s.
So we do in fact have three drivers who've broken the 139 barrier. Of course, Saiful Arifin has managed to improve his lap time 138.875 to push himself up to second. This is Aguri Yong. He is based in Hong Kong. He's been on iRacing for many years now at this point, and Of course, he's also having a good time racing here. Now, it is worth noting that he's one of the more active iRacers on our Facebook platforms. In fact, every time he races, he does share some of his nice live stream races. So do look out for some of his live streams on Facebook, as well as many other iRacers who do share their videos to the different platforms out there.
Yeah, and it's speaking from experience, it's a fantastic way to enjoy the race, watch the live stream here on Adrenaline Impact. Then once you're done here, if you want to catch more racing or see more angles, we try to cover as much as possible. But oftentimes you could go into the individual drivers' live streams and you really get to watch some hidden content, some incidents that we may not have caught in the mainstream. It's absolutely fantastic stuff. And yeah, if you're feeling the sim racing blues during the midweek or when the racing isn't on, it is worth heading over to those live streams and sharing the love amongst the drivers as well. Some of these guys do live stream quite regularly indeed. Amir Faradian there going for another lap time, perhaps just coming out for a second or third sort of warm-up lap. He'll try and push harder and try and get himself back further up the leaderboard. But so far, Eric Wong is still in first place. Lloyd Lachlan using all of the road and then some to try and gain an advantage. Coming out of the final bend, and we've got a spin up ahead. These cars are still very tail heavy compared to their GT3 and GTE counterparts. They're still very much based on the road car. So he goes 143.5. That is not as good as his previous attempt of 141.46. He'll want to go out for another lap.
Still got a bit of time left before the qualifying comes to an end. We've got 3 minutes to go, and right now we're just riding about our feet as he takes the. You can just observe the elevation changes on this track in comparison to some of the other tracks that we've seen before. And with these 911 Cup cars, it just makes it just makes kind of racing here so much more fun. And I think this track, one of the corners that I think this exact corner that he's come upon, or I think it's one of the following corners. So what you see here, this right left-hander, which is turns 12 and 13, this exact corner, this is in fact slower than the new layout that Formula One has changed. So of course, there are some modifications to different parts that have generally allowed higher speed. It does kind of go against tradition with some of the other F1 tracks that we see that are more technical, that don't exactly allow for much high speed action as compared to what has been done to Zandvoort this or last year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the main thing with Zandvoort is the history and the flow of the track. When it comes to flow, there's not a lot of racetracks out there that can rival Zandvoort, and you can see why in its post-Grand Prix years after 1985, it made a name for itself as the venue of one of the biggest Formula 3 races. The Masters of Formula 3 were held here, and you could really tell it was one of those must-win races, along with the Macau Formula 3 race. And if you were a Formula 3 driver, you really wanted to win at Po, the streets of Po, and here in Zandvoort, as well as in Macau, and you really get the attention of the Formula 1 team bosses when you do that. Now currently the Masters, I believe, are run under Euro Formula regulations, although it's nice to see that if everything had gone to plan, Zandvoort would return to FIA Formula 3 action this year. If not this year, then next year. So definitely a historic race circuit. It's been used since the 50s, definitely the 60s, and definitely a favorite amongst a lot of the Dutch drivers. And it's an absolutely fantastic track. It's nice to have a track that has that old school flow.
And that will probably mean that we can expect some old school style of racing. that will happen in just a moment's time as the drivers begin to do their final laps. So some drivers have already have already done their final laps here in qualifying, then there are the rest who are on their way. So qualifying session ends and we are moving on to the race itself.
Yeah. Definitely look out for the first turn. Tarzan hairpin, that is the mother of all outbreaking zones, as everyone's gridding up there. Shivlak is a very high risk but very rewarding overtaking spot. You have to get the previous corner, those S's snaking up the hill to the top of the circuit, right? And then you have to get your run into 12 and 13. That could be a very interesting place indeed. But Eric Wong is on pole position for the SRA guys. In first position, the fastest SRE member is Saiful Arifin in second, followed by Aman Norazam, Kilvinder Singh, Amir Faridian, Shami Azri, Simon Sanchez from Macau there, Wai-In Leong from the UK and Ireland Club, Machapawi, Malaysia, Zainul Hazim for the SRE racing team. He's still got his endurance tag, I see. Ilham Halabi down there for Toyota Motorsport, another SRE driver, along with Lloyd Lachlan from Australia, down in 12th. Machapawi, sorry. Malvidijit Singh is down in 13th, followed by Aguri Young, Azrael Nazli, Afif Fadlan, K, and Tavizi Yusuf with Afizul Jai down in 19th position. Do apologize, you were saying?
Yeah, I was about to read some of the other names. Green flag in a moment.
I was just about to say that. Anyways, the 5 red lights are on and they are away. And Wong looks like he's got a fantastic start, but Kelvinder Singh has an absolute massive start. He manages to leapfrog Saiful and get into third position. It looks like they're going to be battling for those positions. It's almost a replay from the previous round. Meanwhile, Norazam and Azri are side by side. Ilham and Malvidijit looks like they've gone off the road there, so there's been an incident down in the first corner into the Tanzan curve. Now coming into Hugen Holt's corner, Saiful Arifin there in third. He'll want to try and get back his second place as soon as possible through Slaughtermacher turn. Now, and coming into one of the probably the most challenging of braking zones. The Shivlak very short, very, very narrow, so you've got to be really careful and accurate through there. Now into the Masters corner, Saiful Arifin still in third position, but everyone's still very close to each other indeed.
So it would appear that there have been some incidents that have happened, some rather serious accidents that have been happening throughout the first couple of corners as we have a look at the replay.
Ooh, that looks like a big incident there. Two cars stuck to each other. When you get into that sort of T-bone situation, it can be very difficult to try and recover, but Wylo manages to free himself and head on out. Eric Wong is now in the lead. It looks like he's really pulling out an advantage, isn't he?
Yep, Eric has put for himself quite a gap ahead of Kelvinder Singh, a new driver in P2. Of course, he's jumped up from P4, and Saiful Arifin is in third. He's coming under a lot of pressure from his friend Ahmad Norazam, who is in fourth. And here we are riding aboard the gearbox camera of Saiful Arifin. We just have a look at. No, they're not exactly close, but they are within slipstream range, so it is very much up for grabs for Ahmad Norazam. So if we have a look at some of the cars that might have gone into the pits for their repairs, some of the drivers that might have been called out, it would be Lloyd Lachlan, as well as Aguri Young. These two drivers are in the pits for their repairs, as we've seen from that incident earlier on.
Yeah, that is very unfortunate indeed. So Lloyd Lachlan is in the pits. Aguri Young comes up on our timing screens as out. I'm not too sure whether he's disconnected or if there's any issues with that. A real shame for those two drivers. We would have loved to see them battling a little bit more. Meanwhile, Afif Fadlan has managed to keep himself out of the wars and in 13th position. He's chasing after Azwan Nazli in these rather challenging tracks. Definitely not a slipstream happy racetrack. You really have to be quite close to try and take advantage of the slipstream, and you really don't have that many places where you can really use the slipstream to their full effect.
So drivers are beginning to space out with one another as we have a look at Zandvoort who might have made a mistake and he has gotten himself stuck. He's now gone down to P4 and so has Amir Farid. It might appear that there would probably have been some incidents that might have happened at some point.
So let's watch Cypher and see what happened there. Ooh, he got the car sideways. The car snapped towards the grass there and he couldn't catch it in time, so he had to go into the gravel trap there. Meanwhile, Amir Faridian has followed him through there. These cars are very, very difficult on the brakes. You have to imagine with all that weight at the rear of the car, it can be a bit of a pendulum effect. It's a bit like holding a very, very heavy hammer at the very tip of the hand. You have to be a little bit careful, otherwise it can get away from you.
So Ahmad Nourizam returns to third position and he is continuing on his hunt for second place that's currently held by Kelvin Singh. So Eric Wong has managed to increase the gap to up to 3 seconds. So Kelvin will have quite a task in order to try to close that gap. You can just see how much the gap has increased ahead of him.
Absolutely, as we can see there, Ahmad Nourizam is right behind him. Really, I think Kelvin is going to go into defensive mode fairly soon if he's not careful. He's really going to try and use these next 2 laps to try and get a gap to Ahmad Nourizam. Ahmad Nourizam, of course, is very, very quick. He was in fact leading the championship right up until the last lap of the last race in the Adrenaline Impact Racing Championship that we had in the previous weeks. Ilham Labi there just avoiding. There was another car that went off, but it looks like he's very, very close to the car ahead of him, Tamizi Yusuf. They're both in the alternate Adrenaline Impact liveries. Very nice fetching color scheme. They sort of match each other, but they're not quite the same. It's useful for us commentators to pick out which one's which. Ilham's in the darker car, Tamizi's in the lighter car. And let's see if Ilham can make a move on his fellow liveried driver.
So Ilham tries to look for a gap along the inside as they made their way through turn 1 and they are coming upon the next few corners. You can just see how much flow there is to this circuit, even though the corners come tight, especially this corner. This is where some momentum gets broken. And this is Ilham who's gone along the inside. He's going to go alongside Tamizi Yusuf, but I don't think that is going to be enough. Is it going to be enough? Yes, it is enough. He sends it along the inside, of course, using the corners to his advantage. And Ilham Halabi goes up to P6 and Tamizi Yusuf down to P7.
That was an absolutely fantastic move, if I say so myself. That is proper old school racing, using the contours of the road and the lay of the land to try and get yourself an advantage. Racing lines very, very critical in this sort of track because you really want to keep the momentum up, even in these high horsepower cars. There's something about Zandvoort that makes everything about momentum, and it really is a case of trying to keep the path of least resistance and being a little bit creative with the overtaking moves, as we saw there. Navinajit Singh down there in 13th, he's got a grandstand view of the battle up ahead with Sanchez and Farid, and it looks like Afiq up ahead as well, so it looks like these guys are going to be very close to each other. It looks like Sanchez might be able to make an overtaking maneuver work on Farid coming down into the final corner there. That's Simon Sanchez coming up into the main straight. We'll see if he's able to get a slipstream happening here and come into the legendary Tarzan corner.
And this is Simon Sanchez, who's tried to peek along the inside, but he probably couldn't carry enough speed to make that move work. He is in 12th at the moment, 5 positions down from where he began from, so he would be hard pressed to make up some of the lost positions that he had made.
Absolutely, and we can see there Sanchez, he's still trying his hardest to try and look for a way past, but Amir Faridian also still right on the back, right on the engine of Afiq, if you will, and really trying to push hard through there. Nobody's trying any massive maneuvers through here, but there's a car off and there's a big accident. There was it looked like Azrael or Tamizi got sideways there. Meanwhile, Amir Farid perhaps distracted a little bit there. There was Malvinajit there and Sanchez who tried to go for a move, but he also goes off the track. So that's some pretty dramatic incidents there. And that's Malvinajit Singh who unfortunately got caught up with all of that, and he's down in 14th. Shami Azri also looks like he got caught up in some incidents up at the top of the track. Shivlak very, very difficult to try and get right. And that entire top section, especially to come on the run up into turns 9 and 10, really, really difficult to get right, especially if you're trying to race door to door with someone.
So we've unfortunately lost some more drivers with regards to due to the incident. This would mean that more drivers would have to go into the pits, and some of the drivers might have also lost some more positions. So this is Aman Norizam. He's still behind Kelvinder Singh, although he is of course trying to look for every opportunity possible to make his move. So at this point, he sits 3/10 behind Kelvinder, and he seeks to close this gap. He goes very close to the rear bumper of Kelvinder, and he probably has his sights on a move over the next few corners, perhaps.
Yeah, will he be able to make it work coming out of turn 10 and into 11 and 12? It's going to be really difficult. It looks like Kelvinder is already going defensive, quite aggressively there. Perhaps trying to send a message to the man behind him that he's not going to be very easy to pass. But it looks like Aman Norizam is very, very good on the brakes and very good in turn in. And he seems to be able to make up the time there. But Kelvinder is just a little bit quicker through the fast corners. So it'll be interesting to see what happens down at turn 1. Tarzan curve. Let's see if the outbraking maneuver works out for Aman Norizam.
So it would appear that the cars are not exactly close enough for that to work. Now, it is worth noting that this is in fact a heat race. So after this 20-minute race, there will come another 25-minute feature race that will happen when this race ends. So drivers do have a second shot at going for another race.
And it does definitely look like an old school heat race, if I do say so myself. A lot of these drivers are definitely not leaving anything in the pit lane. They are really pushing the cars quite hard there. As you can see there, Hazim just having a real wild ride coming into that corner there. And Ilham there using a lot of that experience that he's gained. He's been sim racing for a very long time. He's one of our most experienced drivers there. Just knowing when to hold them and when to fold them, when to back out of a maneuver. But that's Ilham Labi. He gets up into 5th position, and he'll be trying to chase down Saiful Arifin. Meanwhile, further down the field, it looks like Amir Farid Young is going to try and catch Wai In Leong.
This is Farid turning up the heat on the driver based in the UK and these drivers are 0.6 of a second apart, and of course a move might happen in the next ensuing corners. So Wai In began from 8th position. He is now in 7th, and he's going to be hard pressed to defend this position, whereas Farid would have Farid had lost 3 positions, and he would be trying to regain whatever positions that he might have lost earlier. They make their way along the hairpin, and you can just see that, you know, even with the hairpin, these cars are able to carry over some of their speed, and they now come upon this final right-hander, which would seem that, you know, if you would have to take the best line through this corner in order not to scrub off too much speed.
We see Amit Farinyan there going for a look, but he's decided not to try and go for the dive bomb maneuver. Tarzak famous for the fact that you can make the top half of the circuit or the outside lane work almost like a sort of a short track situation. If you can get your car alongside, you can really force the driver on the inside to sort of scrub off a lot of speed and make an overtaking maneuver work like that. So it's almost a little bit easier, if you will. If there's anything easy about the track, it's perhaps making an overtaking maneuver there. But as you can see there, very narrow circuit as well, so you really have to take your pick and really watch out for the changes in the track. The width of the circuit becomes very important indeed. It's very wide here, but it's very narrow coming up to Shivlak and places like that. But coming into turn 9 and turn 10, and we'll see if Anifaridan can take some extra speed going through here and into another possible outbraking maneuver zone.
So Ferrari tries to go for a slipstream, and we've now come to Amar Norizam. This is still the battle for for second position that has been ongoing since almost towards the beginning of this race. So of course the drivers have 10 minutes to perhaps make this move work, and Kelvin is not giving up just yet. He's defending his position so effectively.
Yes, of course, and with Eric Wong sort of streaking off to the distance, 6.3 seconds up the road. It looks like this is going to be the battle that Kelvinder really have to focus on. Of course, when you're battling for position, sometimes that can take away some speed for both drivers who are battling, and that's perhaps why Eric has managed to streak off into the distance there. But one thing's for sure, these two drivers are racing as if it's the end of the World Championship. It's fantastic to see. You can see that Amar Norizam in a full four-wheel drift coming out of turn 10 and into 12 and 13. These drivers definitely pushing as hard as they can. Very, very different lines as well. This is one of those racetracks where you can really tell the drivers apart in terms of driving style. You can tell Amar Norizam has a more touring car style, pitch the car in early and try and settle it sort of vibe to him, whereas Kelvinder is using a lot of his experience to try and drive the car like a GT car. But we'll see if Amar Norizam has managed to make his driving style work down the main straight and into the first corner.
This is going to be the high-speed run for Amar Norizam to perhaps think of a move along the inside of Kelvinder Singh. You know, he might have repeated it a couple of times throughout the past 15 minutes. But I think, he's just going to keep trying until he's able to sniff second place. Already, he is smelling second place, but it's all about how well Kelvinder is able to defend his position and how well Ahmad will be able to perhaps exploit whatever advantage he is able to get.
Absolutely, as we come up to the road to Shivlak and the top of the circuit, if you will. That's the corner to the very right of your screen on the track map. Coming up into the Masters King. And you can see Amar Norizam takes a lot more curb and he's a lot faster through there than Kelvinder. But Kelvinder is a little bit relaxed going through the corner. He knows that it's very unlikely to make a move work there, but he may have given up too much time going into turn 9 and turn 10. They're going into the short stretch into 12 and 13, or 11 and 12 rather. And we'll have a look and see if he will think about making a maneuver. Amar Norizam just ever so slightly further in to the apex of the corner than Kelvinder. Definitely pushing that car very, very hard indeed as he comes into Kumho and the final corner.
So as we move over to... sorry, man.
No, that's right, go ahead.
Yeah, as we move over to Eric Wong, he's managed to extend his gap to a whopping 7.6 seconds. So at this point, he is at a rather comfortable position. He is also coming upon some lapped traffic, which will more likely than not play to his advantage, as he's going to be able to have more cars behind him to separate himself from the rest of the lead pack drivers. So with just a couple of minutes left to the end of this race, his job now is to retain his lead, to perhaps even increase his gap in any way possible, and to take this home to the checkered flag.
Absolutely, it looks like he's in a commanding position up ahead of the field. In fact, he's coming up into lap traffic, which is a little bit weird considering it's only a 20-minute heat race, but that's how quick Eric Wong is, and also perhaps a sign of the toll that this track is taking on the cars and on the drivers as well. So a lot of the drivers being caught out in incidents in the first heat here. But of course, this is all leading up to that feature race, that 25-minute special that will come up right after this. But Eric Wong definitely pulling away quite well indeed. And yeah,
And we're back with Saiful Arifin, who is in fourth. He did face some issues early on in the race, which led to him losing a couple of positions, and he is 10 seconds behind Ahmad Norisam. So, I think he would be trying his best to retain his fourth position at this point. So, of course, the drivers do have the feature race to have another opportunity at giving this race another shot.
absolutely. And you can tell these guys are pushing as hard as they can. They want to look. Some of these drivers will be going into this heat race basically with the attitude of pushing as hard as they can, try and learn as much about the car and the circuit and the conditions as well. But as we can see there, Amanor Azam still very close indeed, and Shami Azri there still trying to find a way past White In Leong, pushing as hard as they can. There's some bodywork damage to both cars, and as we know, this is a fairly aero-dependent circuit, so it's going to be interesting to see if these two drivers can manage the aero situation on their cars whilst battling for position. It's absolutely going to be a very interesting battle for these guys coming into the final 30 seconds of the race.
Battle still ensues as Amanor Sam is trying to find any possible opportunity to kind of go for a move, but Kelvinder is just gripping onto his second position so tight, and he is going to hold this on for even longer.
Absolutely, as we see Eric Wong cross the finish line. That's an absolutely dominant win, followed by Kelvinder Singh. He looks like he's going to be able to hold on to that second place. A fantastic defensive driving for him to hold off from Norazam Saiful Arifin. Absolutely fantastic comeback to come into fourth position. So well done for Eric Wong, right up there in first position.
This is Zainul Hazim. He will come around the final corner, and he will come upon the start-finish line and finish in sixth position, 4 positions from where he started from qualifying. So this is a great performance. White In still leads Shami Azri around the final corner, and this is probably going to be a battle towards the end. Oh, contact! And this is going to take White In out, and Shami is going to come across the start-finish line in 8th. So this is good. This was an unfortunate incident for White In towards the end, and we now go to Mat Noor as he is coming across in 11th.
That was an absolutely spectacular end to the race there. We could see the gap go down quite dramatically before that incident there, and it looks like perhaps Shami pulled out a little bit too late, or perhaps just a little bit too close for comfort there, but that is very unfortunate for Wai Leong. As Azrael Nasri goes off the track, this may be a chance for Tamizi to try and close up the gap. Will we see another photo finish at the end of the race? Tamizi Yusuf getting very wide, coming across the line, and looks at Azrael Nasri manages to take that position. Tamizi Yusuf just about hangs onto that car. A wild ride to the finish of the race with Malvinajit Singh down there in 13th. That is absolutely spectacular stuff coming up to the start-finish line there. So now as we wait for the cars to grid up for the feature race, there'll be another chance for these guys to try and get a shot at winning the race. It looks like Eric Wong, very, very fast indeed. His reputation precedes him quite a bit, and he's definitely showing off his immense talent in these cars. We're just waiting for Kelvinder Singh to grid up. Norazam, Wai In Leong further behind. Ki, Lloyd, Young, and Jai further behind, waiting for the grid up as well. But yeah, let's see if Kelvinder can get another one of his rocket starts and go into the lead. Five red lights go on, and it's away we go. Kelvinder Singh, again, a massive great start from him. He is challenging for the lead, coming into the third position. The cars are 3 wide, 4 wide behind him. They're side by side, Kelvinder and Wong, and it looks like Kelvinder Singh has managed to gain the lead from Eric Wong. Now, will Kelvinder be able to keep hold of this lead? It's 25 minutes of absolute pressure, that is for sure, and it looks like he's gone wide. Will Eric be able to get that position back from Kelvin? And it looks like he isn't able to do so, but they're very close to each other. And it looks like a lot of the drivers there managed to get through relatively cleanly, except for Key, who's in the pit. Very unfortunate for him. But it looks like Kelvinder Singh has managed to get the lead from Eric Wong. This is absolutely spectacular stuff indeed.
So quite a lot of bumper-to-bumper action, but we now finally see Kelvinder Singh in the race lead, and this is going to mean a great battle between these two drivers. How long can Kelvinder hold up under the pressure? I guess it's just for a couple of moments as he's just buckled in. Oh, around goes Eric, and he loses his split second race lead, and he's going to rejoin the field towards the other end. So right now, this is going to mean that Eric will have a lot of work to do to make his way through the grid if he is to re-challenge for the race lead. Ilham Halabi moves to second as a result of this. Kelvinder Singh holds on to his newly found race lead, and Zainul Hazim, great drive by him, he holds off Simon Sanchez to move up to third at this point. Simon is going to put a lot of pressure on Zainul Hazim, and we'll just have a look at how they manage to hold off each other.
Yes, that was absolutely amazing racing through there. It looked for a second that Eric Wong managed to get the lead, but unfortunately he spun out, perhaps taking a little bit too much speed into the corner there. But Zainul Hazim is now challenging Sanchez, who has a fantastic run to end up in third position. A lot of changes through the first couple of laps here. Absolutely spectacular stuff, and this group of cars, I predict, is going to have a big old battle. Amir Faradian very close to the back of Saiful Arifin, who's very close to the back of Hazim, who's very close to the back of Sanchez. It's going to be an epic battle for third position, shaping up in these early stages. It's going to be a 25-minute or 20-lap feature race. I believe we'll perhaps get to the end of the time as opposed to the end of the lap count, although don't quote me on that. But Amir Faradian, they're definitely with the front row view of that battle there, and it looks like Saiful Arifin is trying to go for a move around Hazim, around the outside. We saw Eric Wong try that, but it looks like he's still able to keep his position, so that's going to be absolutely fantastic stuff. Amir Faradian there with the absolute front row seat, and of course we have Eric Wong, who's unfortunately just missed his braking zone there. That's another mistake from him. He's not going to be too happy with himself there, but he's definitely got the pace to try and catch up with the other guys. It looks like he perhaps got caught out with the cars backing up into that corner there. That's very unfortunate indeed for Eric Wong, but he'll be back up and running, no problems.
Farid is in 7th, and Saiful Arifin is in 5th. He is being challenged by, or rather it is Saiful Arifin challenging Zainul Hazim. So Saiful moves up to 4th and Zainul Hazim goes down to 5th. This was a move down the Tarzan Bocht, the corner that's famous for, like what you just said moments ago, for overtaking moves along the outside. So I think that's going to show that some corners you can take either line and turn it to advantage if you're good, if you're on top of the car. So Saiful Arifin will lead Zainul Hazim through the next few corners, and the gap between Saiful now with Simon Sanchez sit at 2 seconds. I think the second race, this features, it is shaping up to be a little bit, more, I guess, it's probably one that has seen a little less damage than we've seen in the first race. So it does mean that the drivers are probably a little more settled in at this point, and I guess that's mostly what we want to achieve, right? To kind of see that drivers have come to this point where they're able to push with each other and not be afraid of too much incidents that might happen.
Absolutely, and now we see Kelvinder Singh. He has seen off the attack from Eric Wong, but now he is under attack from Ilham Halabi, who, as we all know, is a very, very quick driver indeed. These two drivers have battled quite a lot in the past, and it's going to be absolutely spectacular to see how well these guys do. Ilham very close to each other. Ilham and Kelvinder, and it looks like there's definitely going to be a definite chance of, if not an overtake, slipstreaming happening down the front stretch here coming into Tarzan Bot. And it looks like a little bit of netcode there from Ilham, but that shouldn't be any issues. Coming out of the first turn now, really Kelvinder Singh has to defend quite hard. Will we see that massive defensive driving that Kelvinder Singh managed to pull off in the first heat? We'll see if he's able to pull that off, but Ilham Labi definitely putting Kelvinder under a lot of pressure.
So I think Kelvinder's been under been under quite a lot of pressure this whole race. Though from just now, he had come under pressure from Ahmad Norisam, and now it's Ilham that's going to make life difficult for him. But he's holding up well. I think he's holding up really well in order to retain, to hold on to his race lead. And he has got 20 minutes to go at this point. We are 5-6 minutes into the race. And in fact, the gap between them sit at 4 to 5 tenths of a second, which does make things really, really interesting.
Absolutely, and Ilham Labi very, very close through there. Now this looks like it's shaping up to be another challenge down the front straightaway, as we see Kelvinder Singh coming into the Kumho bend, as it was known back in the day. Ilham Labi right behind him. You can see the gap ticking down, although Kelvinder manages to get a better exit out of that corner. But will Ilham be close enough to go for another overtaking maneuver? Let's watch him coming in through here. Ilham decides not to go for it. Perhaps Ilham is going for the pressure tactic, try and put Kelvinder Singh under as much pressure as. So Amir Faradjan there. Another driver challenging Machabawi up ahead there. He's going to be absolutely nip and tuck between these two drivers. They look like they've been quite close to each other for quite a while there. And it looks like Amir Faradjan just slowly easing into perhaps an overtaking maneuver in the next couple of laps or so.
And we're back with Saiful Arifin, who is still in fourth, and I think this is the result of Simon Sanchez, who's made the overtaking move to go up to third. So it is Simon Sanchez's turn to hold off Saiful Arifin at this point. Of course, Simon is now 4 seconds behind, 3.5 seconds behind Ilham, so this is quite a gap that he will have to work to perhaps close up. He makes a little bit of a lockout through that corner, but does recover well and goes for the short shoot down here before going through the final 2 corners.
Absolutely, and it looks like Saiful Arifin might still actually be in a position to take that position back from Sanchez. We'll see how it goes through the final bend here. They look to be mighty close to each other. Will we see a race-long battle for third position? It definitely looks like these two drivers are very equally matched. But Saiful Arifin decides not to go for the overtaking maneuver. And a big twitch there from Sanchez as he's going through the first corner there. It looks like these two drivers very equally matched. They're going to have an absolutely fun race-long battle. I am sure of that.
We're back with Farid once again. He is in 7th, and he is, of course, he's trying to close up his gap with Machabawi, who is in 6th, and he's also coming under he's coming under an emerging Eric Wong, who is trying to recover his lost positions from a mistake from earlier on in the race. So Farid is, of course, he has 2 tasks to look after. He's trying to close this gap, which he is doing quite successfully at this point. He's doing rather well in closing his gap with Chapu. He's reduced the gap to 5 tenths of a second. So this could become a 3-way fight with Zainul Hazim as well once this pack becomes a little more packed together. As we just said, that Eric Wong has closed the gap a little bit and he is gaining on Farid. So we'll see how this unfolds.
Absolutely. Eric Wong there definitely got the pace to lead. He was absolutely emphatic in his win in the first race. But now coming to the second race there, he's got to fight from the back of the field. This pack really starting to get closer and closer together, but I can see the pace that Eric's got in that car. It looks like we might witness yet another one of those famous Tarzan dive bombs. Both cars ducking and diving, defending, trying to get around it, and Eric Wong there around the outside. That is the famous Tarzan line going through the corner. Absolutely well demonstrated by Eric Wong. Absolutely fantastic outbraking maneuver coming into that turn. It just goes to show that with this track, the way it's laid out, the way it flows and curls on itself, sometimes if you're just a little bit creative and you've got the pace, you can really make those outside overtaking maneuvers work. Absolutely fantastic stuff from Eric Wong there.
So next on the hit list for Eric Wong would probably be Matt Chapuis, and this will become a battle for P6 over the next few moments. So Amir Farid moves down to P8 as a result of this overtake. And we're back with Ilham, who is in second. He is still pressuring Kelvinder Singh for the race lead. They are 2 seconds apart from each other, and they're now taking this right-left Hugenholz corner. This is one that is quite slow, and they're coming upon the final 2 corners. Now, Kelvinder has been doing such a great job all race long in order to hold on, to grapple on to his race lead, but he's under pressure. I think he's been under quite a lot of pressure for every moment. So this is, we are now riding on the front bumper camera of Ilham, and he is now sitting on the slipstream of Kelvinder Singh, because he goes early on the brakes in order not to perhaps go too wide into this corner. And over the next few moments, we should see some moves perhaps emerge between these two drivers.
Absolutely. I mean, these two drivers have been glued to each other ever since the second lap of the race. Now we're in lap 8. Kelvinder Singh must be feeling a lot of pressure right now. Ilham will be right behind him. I'm guessing Ilham's tactic right now is to just try and put as much pressure on Kelvinder as possible. Meanwhile, we switch back to Eric Wong, who is now got Chapuis right in his sights there. Will we see another bit of overtaking brilliance from Eric? We saw that brilliant maneuver on the outside going to Tarzan. Now he's really fast going to Shivlak, and it looks like Chapuis is defending quite well from Eric. Obviously these drivers are racing for position, but it looks like into Masters. Is this the impossible overtaking maneuver that we're going to see here coming into turn 10? Can Eric make it work? They're still side by side. Can he make it work through here? They're still side by side. That was 3 corners in the making. That is an absolutely fantastic overtaking maneuver. And now next on the hit list for Eric Wong is Zainul Hazim. Absolutely fantastic driving through the top half of the circuit there.
So he has managed to recover some positions. He's up to 6th at this moment, and he's now got some more drivers on his side. Saiful Arifin in 4th, and he's still behind Simon Sanchez. Of course, these two drivers have traded places moments ago, and now Simon Sanchez did kind of duck along the inside and return to the outside line to try to shake off Saiful Arifin. Of course, it's always great to see these battles that do take place over a span of time. It just goes to show, the kind of work that drivers do have to commit to in order to hold on to their positions. Oh, a bit hard on the brakes goes Simon Sanchez, and Saiful Arifin goes a little deep just now. He went a little bit deep just now, and because he is still in his contrails.
Absolutely. It just goes to show how close these guys are out on track. There's only 1 or 2 car lengths in between them, so if there is any mistake from the front end, it could be a mistake from the driver in front, could be an overtaking maneuver, but it could also really very easily become an opportunity to have a very big accident. So Saiful Arifin there doing very well to try and make that maneuver stick, and it looks like Saiful Arifin manages a very clean overtaking maneuver through turns 9 and 10, but Simon Sanchez being very patient, keeping that inside line, trying to keep it close, and another position change for this battle as Saiful Arifin manages to take over 3rd position. Meanwhile, Amir Faradian there looks like he's still carrying a little bit of damage there, trying to catch up with the battle up ahead that got sort of disrupted by Eric Wong trying to make an overtaking maneuver work now into Kumho, the second to last corner. He's going around the outside. Will he try to go around the outside of the final corner? Ari Lyondike bend. Ari Lyondike, of course, famous for his outside overtaking maneuvers in kart, and it looks like Eric Wong paid his tribute there. That is absolutely fantastic stuff. Around the outside of Zainal Hazib, and now further up the road, although 5 seconds up the road, is Simon Sanchez, who's still in this absolute titanic battle with Saiful Rifin, and they really are pushing the cars quite hard. It looks like they might be using up their tyres a little bit. Could we see tyre degradation play a factor in this particular battle?
Now, of course, these cars are in fact reliant on mechanical grip more so than even the GT3 cars that we see. So is this going to be a move for the race lead by Ilham? He did have a peak of that, but Kelvinder still manages to hold Ilham off. So we might see something emerge once again over the next few corners. We do have a couple of drivers who have disconnected, probably due to certain incidents that have happened. Now, of course, with these cars being reliant on mechanical grip, it is going to be quite hard on these tires. And also the fact that, with these cars, the braking distances are usually longer than some of the other racing cars that we do see around.
Absolutely, and the longer braking distances do tend to lend themselves to very, very tight, very close battles, and very interesting overtaking maneuvers. But here, Eric Wong, we're just going to have a quick look at the replay, and ooh, that's a big incident from Eric. Just got the car sideways there, and with a Porsche, once you get sideways, it can be very, very tricky indeed to try and make that overtaking maneuver work. Make the corner work, rather.
And that was an unfortunate end to his contention for the race lead. But we are back with some racing action for a battle for the race lead, an exciting one that is still ongoing between Ilham and Kelvinder. So many moments that Ilham had tried to make the move. So he did even pass Kelvinder at various points for race lead, but of course Kelvinder did hold off well in order to hold on to his race lead. So at this point we do have 7 minutes to go in the race. So I think very, very much so Kelvinder will have to. I guess it'll be more of a race where he's trying to fend off the driver behind him instead of looking ahead, and perhaps it's kind of thrust into an uncomfortable position at this point.
Absolutely, this is what we mean when we say when we reference racing as being more of a chess match. This really is a grandmaster's battle between Kelvinder and Ilham. Meanwhile, Amir Ferdinand finally catches back up to Zainal Hazib, and we might see a resumption of that particular battle for 5th and 6th position. And definitely looks like Sanchez has gone off the road there. So we'll have a quick look at what happened to Simon Jorge Sanchez coming into the braking zone here. Just gets the car a little bit sideways, and again, these cars are so easy to spin. Definite weight bias to the rear there, so he's really going to have to push the car quite hard now to try and pull away again from Azim and Farid, who've now caught up with him. And it looks like, yes, it looks like a tyre degradation issue for Sanchez as well. So these three drivers are now back into a pack that they were in 5 laps ago, before Eric Wong sort of disturbed the flow for these drivers by overtaking them with some of the best racing we've seen in quite a while. But Amir Ferdinand now right at the back of Zainal Hazim. Could we see an overtaking maneuver happen in the next couple of laps?
Very much a three-way battle pack that is happening at this point. Of course, they're not exactly the tight battle pack that we're used to seeing perhaps some moments ago, but this is in fact a battle for P4 that is being led by Simon Sanchez. Of course, due to the incident that Simon had earlier on, he has lost some ground with Saiful Arifin, so I think he's been set back a few seconds. But This does mean that he is now being faced with the task of defending his 4th position from not one but 2 cars who are eager to get a move up.
Absolutely, and we can see Amir Faradian just getting closer and closer and closer to Hazib. And of course, Sanchez is now in a little bit of a precarious position. He'll be hoping that the battle going on behind him slows the 2 cars down enough that he can get a bit of a breathing room, but it doesn't look to be working out quite that way. It looks like the gap is now pretty much even. We'll have to see if Amir Faradian, he's a little bit slow coming out of the final corner rather. So perhaps that might not be helping his chances when it comes to an overtaking maneuver around Tarzan, but perhaps he will be able to find a overtaking maneuver further into the lap into the infield sections here and up through to Shivlak. But it looks like, oh, there's a big spin out the front there, and it looks like Sanchez really dropped down quite a bit. Again, could this be the tires going out away from Simon? Oh, just going wide there, and that allowed the 2 cars behind him to go past.
So of course, the unfortunate sequence of events for Simon Sanchez, which now sees him dropping down to 6th position. And this also means that Saiful Arifin, okay, he is in 3rd, but Zainul Hasib has moved up to 4th, and so has Farid into 5th. So it's now returned, it's gone down to a 2-horse battle between those drivers. But we do see a bit of mistake. What is this? A bit of mistake by Ilham.
So it looked like Ilham managed to gain the lead through that mistake, even though he was off the road at the time. But it looks like Kelvinder Singh, he got into a spin. And that's why Ilham Labi had to go off the track there. Kelvinder Singh finally folded under the pressure there, got the car sideways, and now he is in trouble from Saiful Arifin, who's right behind him. This is a resumption of their Heat 1 battle. That is absolutely amazing driving from Kelvinder. He managed to hold on to the race lead for so long, but now he's 3 seconds behind Ilham Labi, who's not only taken the lead, but managed to get himself a nice, comfortable gap in the closing stages of the race. So Ilham Labi's long-term tactic of putting as much pressure as possible on the car in front, not even trying to go for the overtaking maneuver, seems to have worked out perfectly. That is some 200 IQ racing from Ilham. And now Kelvinder Singh has got one problem on his hands. He's lost the race lead, but he's also got another problem in the form of Saiful Arifin, who's very close behind.
Yep, so trouble's not over for Kelvinder yet. He has held on, he is holding on to 2nd place at this point, but he's facing a lot of pressure from a certain Saiful Arifin, and this does mean that as he tries to manage that pressure, he's also got to try to close up his lost ground with Ilham Halabi. Of course, that lost ground amounts to 3 seconds, just under 3 seconds, so it's quite an uphill task for Kelvinder.
Absolutely gutting for Kelvinder, but Ilham Halabi, he's definitely must be feeling absolutely fantastic with that 1st place. Perhaps he would have liked to take it in an overtaking maneuver, but definitely he managed to put that much pressure on Kelvinder for over 20 minutes. Kelvinder Singh had to deal with Ilham Halabi basically glued to the rear bumper of that Porsche, and unfortunately it just got a little bit too much for him. But now will he be able to defend 2nd position from Saiful Arifin? It looks like Saiful Arifin, his car seems to be a little bit better, a little bit more stable going through the corners there. You can see Kelvinder's car going slightly sideways going through the corners here. Saiful Arifin getting so close he has to take avoiding action almost as they go out of that corner and into the Slottermarker S's and up into the rather imposing dune that is Shivla corner. Saiful really getting closer and closer, and it looks like Kelvinder Singh really in a lot of trouble right now.
So at this point, we are 20 seconds away from the end of this race, which would initiate either a final lap or a checkered flag, depending on when Ilham Halabi comes across the start-finish line. So it could be final moments at this point for the drivers who are on track.
Absolutely, and Kavinder Singh will be hoping beyond hope that Ilham Labi crosses the line later rather than earlier. But it looks like Ilham Labi will go around the final bend. He's led the race only right at the end, but that is where it counts, and he weaves his way across the line with Kavinder Singh coming in second position and Ilham Labi in third. What a race for these guys. Zainal Hazim is still battling with Amir Faridyan, and it looks to me that Zainal Hazim has managed to gain the upper hand in that particular battle, coming in fourth with Amir Faridyan in fifth position.
And this is Simon Sanchez, who's fought so hard all race long, and this will result in him holding on to P6 as he comes across the final few corners. And on his way towards the final corner and onto the start-finish line. But of course, the intended outcome of this race that we've arranged is to kind of just have fun for drivers between SRE and SRA. So, of course, the customary photo shoot that the SRE guys are always used to doing. I would hope that the Sim Racers Asia league participants present in this race would also perhaps join for the after-party festivities. Let's see if they do. But even if not, I hope I'm certainly positive that this has been such an amazing experience for all the drivers involved.
Absolutely, and it's turned out to be a fantastic race. Eric Wong there, absolutely dominant in the first race. Kalvinder Singh really has to have the best starter award, taking that lead in the feature race. That was absolutely amazing stuff. And I think we had a lot of battles up and down the leaderboard between the SRE and SRA guys and amongst each other. It's been an absolutely fun race. And here's hoping to more cooperation between the SRE and SRA guys, because speaking on behalf of Adrenaline Impact, it's been an absolutely entertaining race both times. Ilham Halabi in the feature results will take home the win, followed by Kalvinder Singh, Safar Ifin, Zainul Hazim, Amir Faridyan, who just couldn't quite get that move-taking maneuver work. Simon Sanchez, who unfortunately had that mistake coming into the slower sections of the track. He's down in 6th, followed by Afiq Fadlam and Malvinajit Singh. So anyways, guys, this has been the SRE by SRA Porsche 911 GT3 Invitational race here at Zandvoort, the little Carrera Cup race that we've put on. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. We've definitely enjoyed it. Speaking for myself, absolutely fantastic racing up and down the leaderboard. But all that remains for me to say is to thank Chan Wei Han.
Yes, and it is definitely very much our pleasure to be, we're really grateful that you've invited the Sim Racers Asia guys to be part of this race, this invitational special race as well. I think it's just been an added experience for all of the drivers to be racing together. And, likewise, we do look forward to more races like these. I think it's only going to, bring more shared experiences for all of us to enjoy.
Absolutely. So we will have that little test session coming up ahead. So do stay tuned. We'll try and bring you some action from more Adrenaline Impact iRacing Malaysia Championship practice races and test sessions coming up from Mount Panorama in the Kia Optimas. But for now, we're going to go to a short break, and we will see you all in just a few moments.
Hi, I'm Matt from Interformula, and welcome to our Research and Development Centre. We do all forms of research and development, all the way from designing and developing our own race cars, to simulators, to running cars in racing series and rallying all over the world. We also do a lot in the Asian Classic Car Championship, so do look out for us. For any information, do contact us with the number down below.
And we're back as we watch Calvin Haag drive around this fantastic Mount Panorama circuit. We're in Bathurst for another test race session for Season 2 of the Adrenaline Impact iRacing Malaysia Championship. It's going to be an absolutely fantastic season up ahead, but for now we're just going to have a few practice runs through here. Calvin Haag taking you on a driver's eye view rather of the infamous skyline drop into the dipper there, the massive compression on your spine and your back, the sensation of falling off a cliff. Absolutely iconic part of this race circuit, coming into Forest Elbow there and out onto the Conrod Straight, which gives us enough time to, first of all, thank Shanwei Han, who had just had to run off and do some other stuff. And in the meantime, you'll still have me to sort of talk you through the practice sessions and the race. So obviously we have a lot of the other guys who are probably still in the Porsche servers at the moment, but right now, just to have a quick rundown, this is Mount Panorama Circuit in Bathurst, 6.2 kilometers long, and the site of the Great Australian Race, the Bathurst 1000 Enduro for the V8 supercar guys. Absolutely iconic touring car racetrack, and also the site of the 24 Hours of Bathurst, or the Bathurst 12 Hours as well. One for production cars, another one for GT3 cars. I'm sure you guys might correct me in which way around that is, and if you do leave us a comment down in the comment section below and like the video whilst you're there. That'll be absolutely awesome if you could do so, and while you're at it, subscribe and share it amongst your friends and spread the love when it comes to sim racing. So meanwhile, Calvin Haag, their best lap time 2:17. It's going to be an absolutely fantastic season. We're going to have the bigger, faster racetracks, just like Mount Panorama here, and a bigger, faster race car. Afizul Jai there driving the Android King SSAD example, really throwing the car into the scenery there to try and get as fast a run onto Conrod Straight, so named as because of the dips and crests and the fact that the engine is right on the limit, coming into the chase, where you really have to, as the name suggests, chase the car down, drive the car down through the gears and into what is a very fast series of corners. That was put in 1987 during the inaugural World Touring Car Championship, which held around through here, and it was actually the first time that Bathurst, believe it or not, had an international racing license. Before that it was all national, but it was still one of the biggest race events on the international motor racing calendar. Speaking of bigger, better and brighter, these guys are now going to be racing in Season 2 with a brand new car, the Kia Optima. This is built to what is now the Pilot Sport Challenge regulations in IMSA racing. That is the touring car category for IMSA. A lot of TCR cars entered there, as well as some American homologated cars like this Kia. 375 horsepower, 400 foot-pounds of torque, with a 6-speed sequential transmission, which will be a new addition to the series for these guys, as Afizul Jai there just sliding off the road just a little bit there. Sharon Orafudin also coming a cropper, as they say, in the Forest Elbow. Ilham Halabi, who did so well. He is managed to turn his sim rig around in record time and join us for a little bit of practice session. Will he be able to take a double in this next series?
Hi, man.
So that's our director, Karo Alang. Hi.
This is some magic. We see Ilham traveling from Zandvoort, well, in Netherlands, is it?
Yep, in the Netherlands.
How did he manage to go from Netherlands to Australia in just a few seconds?
Well, I must say, Ryanair's service really has gotten a lot better. But that's what I had to comment there about the remarkable turnaround, because he'd had to basically say his goodbyes and really bask in the glory of winning the feature race there, the SRA Invitational race that you saw just now. And in the time it took for us to run those adverts, he would have had to disconnect from the server, reset his steering wheel to the settings he would need for these cars, because you have to remember the Porsche is a rear-engined rear-wheel drive car, and this Kia is a front-engine front-wheel drive car, so the steering
Total opposite.
Then he would have had to try and get into the server, get out on the racetrack, and manage to actually be on a warm-up lap by the time we actually got on. So definitely congratulations to him for winning the race, but I think the most impressive race he's won is the race from Zandvoort server and into this one. So there you go, these top line sim racers, they'll be using iRacing's force feedback app to try and tune the cars, tune the steering field to their liking. Obviously they have presets as well, so Ilham didn't have to manually tune everything in, but it does remind me of a very peculiar tradition in American motorsports back in the 70s and 80s, and something that was brought back by Kurt Busch in recent years, which was doing the double. The Indy 500 and the Coca-Cola 600, the Indy 500 being an IndyCar race, the biggest IndyCar race, and the Coca-Cola 600 being the longest NASCAR race, the Charlotte or the World 600, as it is in Charlotte Motor Speedway. And there's a big accident there. I think that was Mohimin. Unfortunately came a cropper, as the Aussies say, on the top of the hill, but oh no, that was Mohimin. I'll have to try and see who that was. But that is the practice session done, and our own little double is about to head into their session.
So we're on qualifying.
So yeah, it looks like Mohimin is definitely one of the quicker guys in the session at the moment. Of course, there's 10 minutes left, so we'll see if any other drivers manage to make their way from the previous server into this one. I have my phone a good arm's distance away. I normally put my phone on the bed in silent mode, but I can guarantee you, if I open up the WhatsApp group, yes, there's 25 messages already from the last time I checked it into this time. All of them rushing to try and get into the session here. So we do apologize if it isn't as many drivers as would normally take part, but having run these two events back to back, it is a little bit of a time crunch for some of the drivers. Perhaps not as fast as Ilham on the old mouse. We watch Sharon Orfurin. He is the car at the head of the queue right now, going through McPhillamy Park. This fast left-hander that sort of spits you out right into Skyline. Absolutely iconic piece of bitumen. Into the dipper there, you're just constantly going downhill. You've got to watch the front end of the car, you've got to watch the tail of the car as well. It can be very easy to spin the car through here. When you spin the car, you lose a lot of time because there's no space to try and make any sort of maneuver work. Calvin Howe really pushing hard to try and follow these guys in. Now Bathurst, definitely a slipstreaming track. You've got to try and find a buddy to have a tow in. You see a lot of touring car style tips and tricks being played out with these rather nice looking Kias. They actually almost look like they belong at the racetrack. The bodywork definitely has that V8 supercar vibe. They even have the little side exit exhausts. But that was a very, very worrying spin there in the chase for Norwood. But now Calvin Ha is the first man who is going to start his timed lap. A little bit of trivia, actually. For those of you wondering, who follow Asian motorsports, you're probably looking at that car and thinking, I've seen that before. And viewers of the China Touring Car Championship will know that 778 Motorsports, the team that Calvin Ha works for, both in sim racing and in real life, they have a factory-backed Kia Forte, which has the exact same livery. So it's kind of cool that Calvin Ha has that sort of connection with a real-world racing car, bringing it back into iRacing there. You can see that is the 778 Motorsports Kia, almost exactly the same as the car that runs in the China Touring Car Championships. So if you ever wondering out there, we do have quite a few real-world racing drivers, but I've never quite seen a synergy work that well. So right now Calvin Ha is there. Alfizel Jai had a massive hit impact with the wall there. A lot of these drivers as we were saying earlier on with the Porsches during qualifying, a lot of these drivers want to have a very quick time early in the session, and that means that they can sort of have that little insurance run. They have a quick time already under their belts, so they can try and push for a quicker time, try and take bigger risks in traffic later on, safe in the knowledge that they're in the race and that they have a good position already. But Calvin Ha, he looks like he's going to be the quickest man. He'll set the first provisional pole time. Michael Hafiz is behind him. He'll be the next time, and it looks like Michael Hafiz actually has a quicker lap time, potentially quicker lap time than Calvin Ha. Calvin goes personal best through 4 of the 5 segments that he's driven through, but Michael Hafiz has 2 purples, 2 purple sectors. For those of you wondering at home, the graphic at the bottom there, Calvin Ha is about to cross the finishing line. The driver closest to the finishing line has his name on the very left hand, the driver furthest away on the right. And the color coding scheme is, if you see a yellow, that means he hasn't improved on his personal best. A green means it's a personal best, that's the best time he's ever done. But Michael Hafiz there, going across the line to 16.774. That's a full second quicker than Calvin Ha. And it looks like Cheryl Norwood comes into 3rd position. Could we see Michael Hafiz come into his own? Michael, being of course a touring car driver in real life, he might be enjoying these little front wheel drive cars quite a bit, I would imagine. But like I was saying there, yellow means they're not quick enough, green means it's a personal best, they will improve from their previous time, and purple is pole time there. So that's a very nice little handy visual aid for you guys watching at home. It's definitely helped us in the commentary booth quite a bit since we've introduced it, so props to Carol for bringing that in. Meanwhile, we have Zainul Hazim, who is coming up to the end of the lap, coming into the casual chase in the Dante liveried car there. Really nice looking livery. There's some new teams being formed, some old teams being reformed and reorganized as well. And it's nice to see some new sponsors coming into the series. Yeah, hopefully these guys get free Dantes if they win the race. I know that would be in the contract straight away if I was driving for them. Zainal Hazim there crosses the line and goes into 4th position. Calvin Ha, unfortunately, he's got a bit of a slow run coming in through the lap. But Iman Danish, who I believe is a new driver, coming into the series, car number 880, another Toyota Motorsport car. He looks like he's going to have a fairly quick lap time. He's already gone purple in the 4th sector. The 4th sector out of 6. The sectors in our racing roughly corresponding to about a kilometre's worth of track. But we'll see if Iman manages to get a good time coming out of the final corner. It's a 2:16.774, I believe. So that's very quick. Oh, it would have been very quick, but I think his time might have been disallowed due to track limits. So the times won't go up on the left-hand side of the screen if the driver has abused track limits at any point throughout the course of the lap. Ilham Halabi, very fast driver. He's been racing in iRacing since 2008, believe it or not. So really since the start of the platform. And I can tell you the graphical improvements, the physics improvements, and all the rest of it that's happened since those heady days of Intel Core duos and HD 77 graphics, right up to now when we're running it with RTX on and all the bells and whistles. It's absolutely fantastic stuff indeed. Fizzle Jai has managed to take the provisional pole position away from Michael Hafiz. Kelvin Ha is still in third position. He decides to pit, but now it's Zainul Hazim that we're on board. He was in fifth position. It looks like he's going to improve his time, but unfortunately he's just gone off the road there at the Caltex chase. That's very unfortunate indeed for him. It looked like he was going to improve on his time by quite a bit there. Meanwhile, Michael Hafiz, he's in second position. He is going trying to push quite hard, but it looks like he's gone slowest in the first four sectors. He'll want to try and go for another lap, I would assume. He is 6/10 of a second behind Afizul Jai. Afizul Jai really pushing the car quite hard here as we go into the final minute of qualifying. As he says, as he's taking a drink. Absolutely spectacular stuff in the Porsche race there. But it's nice to see these guys out there practicing. Meanwhile, we'll have a look at the chat. Scary fast through that last turn. Imagine with banking a new layout. Super scary. Yes, that's in Hyman.
Yeah, those chats were loaded from the previous race.
Yeah. So yeah, I was just going to say that was the in reference to Zandvoort. Asli Dali, go SRE members. Yep, they definitely brought it home for us. But hopefully we'll have a rematch sometime soon. That'll be something quite fun, and hopefully we'll get some more of the SRE guys to join in on the action. Alif Lamim, wishing drivers good luck. Amir Faradian, flight aku terlepas dari Zandvoort ke Bathurst. It looks like Amir Faradian didn't catch the same.
Right on the in front of camera.
He didn't catch the same flight that Ilham Labi was on. That's for sure.
Guess who's joined in the last minute?
Did Amir Faradian manage to get in?
No, Saiful.
So it's going to be a very interesting race for him. He'll try and make this qualifying lap count. I think he started his qualifying lap right on the buzzer there. So Saiful Refid taking the more extreme approach to travel. I myself, I like to turn up at the airport about 4 hours early just in case the taxi breaks down or catches fire. But it's often quite funny to see traveling with people who tend to turn up at the gate 3 minutes before it shuts. And I think Saiful Refid and Ilham Labi are like that when it comes to sim racing travel, as you can see. Still, a fantastic effort to try and get from Zandvoort to Bathurst in about 12 minutes. There must be some sort of new airspeed record. We're breaking all the records today, ladies and gentlemen. Saiful Refid, he has gone green in 3 sectors. He might not be able to get it on pole, but he'll try mighty hard in the number 12 Toyota Motorsports car. Really absolute full commitment through the first part of the chase. Again, this Caltex chase, really the only change to the track since the 1960s. So this is the quote-unquote new part of the track, and that's because the Conrod Straight was too long, and of course there was no runoff area at the end of it. You don't really want a 2 kilometer long basically flat out drive straight into the wall. But it looks like Saiful Arifin manages to get himself into 5th position with a 219.120. So this is going to be a very interesting practice race indeed.
It will be a 30-minute race.
So a fairly long race to try and get the drivers just used to these new cars. Like I was saying earlier, the Kia Optimas, 375 horsepower, 2-litre turbocharged engines. The blocks are actually very similar to the block used in the Mitsubishi Evo 10. This was back when Hyundai and Kia were in partnership with Mitsubishi on the GEMS engine project. If you guys are into that sort of stuff.
Oh, so it's similar to the 4B11? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they joint develop, right?
Yeah, so it's often people don't sort of realize that the 4B11 and the turbocharged 4B11 actually were Hyundai Kia engines as well as Mitsubishi, and very unique little engines. First for both manufacturers, the turbocharger in the rear of the engine, the air intakes in the front, which is the modern way of doing it, but definitely a step change. And yeah, 375 horsepower, very relatively mild state of tune. As we switch over to our race graphics, we have Danish, we have Afik, we have Shamir, we have Malvindajit. So that's very good for him to try and get over here. I'm trying to remember if Shamir Aizan was in the previous race. Cheryl Nora Fudin, I think, was as well. So we've managed to get some of the drivers, at least, from Zandvoort into this race. And I believe we're going to go for a rolling start behind the safety car. Again, another thing with these cars, of course, American regulations, so they'll be using rolling starts for... I'm not sure if they'll be using it for the series.
Yeah, we will be using the rolling start for
Yeah.
season 2.
Yeah, because these cars, not the best off a standing start. So they'll wait for the lights to go on. That's just to let them know when to go. The Porsche starts to move away. They'll line up double file behind the safety car. We have a Fizzle-Jai in 1st position, Michael Hafiz in 2nd, Kevin High in 3rd, Sharon Norafudin in 4th position, Saiful Arifin just about caught the last train home in 5th, Zainul Hazim in 6th position, Ilham Halabi managing to break the land speed record from Zandvoort to Bathurst, get here in time. Mohammed in 8th, followed by Shamir, Danish, Afik and Malvindajit, who glad managed to make it the trip over. But now we're going into the final corner. You see the famous run up to the lights. The red lights are on, and it should be go, go, go for the guys. Very clean restart, but it looks like a Fizzle-Jai has managed to keep the lead from Mecha Hafiz. Calvin Ha is right behind in 3rd position. And Saiful Arifin in 4th as they head out of Hell Corner and into the cutting. Big crest over there, you really feel your stomach go. The camera angles really don't do this place justice. When you get a chance to drive around the track in sim or even better in real life, you realize how steep Mount Panorama is. It is officially a mountain, and you do drive almost all the way to the top in the most direct route possible for a motor car to get up there. So definitely a horsepower heavy circuit, but handling very important as well, going up through the top, through Reed Park here. That's the first park you'll see, and that's when the very top of the racetrack, McPhillamy Park. Big dip through there, and a very fast series of left-hand bends, where the lunatics and the hooligans like to go up and have a really wild party going up through there. Zainul Hazim in 6th position, going through Skyline and down through the hill, diving down, and it looks like a spin. Sharil Norafudin got it just from coming into the dipper. Zainul Hazim managing to make up another position there in the Dante's Toda Motorsport car, chasing the sister team car of Saiful Arifin, going through the forest elbow. That's the hairpin. that ends the mountain section, and now onto Conrod Straight. Put your foot down, row through the gears, and let the speed really build up through here. These cars capable of 270 kilometers an hour in ideal flat conditions. Around here you'd really struggle to get the cars up to 240, and these cars really need about another 600 horsepower if you want to try and chase those massive V8 supercar style top speed numbers. But so far, Ifin now coming into the final corner, popping out through there. You gotta get the exit to that corner really quite tight. You can see the National Motor Racing Museum and a car trying to enter it in the background. That's a little bit worrying indeed. But so far, Ifin now behind Calvin Hart. So I think we're going to see a step change in the order of the racing scene this time around. We've switched from a rear drive sports car to a front drive touring car, and a lot of these driving styles really do suit the front wheel drive cars a little bit more. Calvin Hart definitely very quick in the front wheel drive car, as you can see, holding his own in third position. Michael Hafiz in second, really pushing the car very hard indeed. Afizul Jai, however, is in the lead by not a very large margin, although the top four has indeed started to spread out a little bit. As you can see there, the trick with the front wheel drive car is to kill all the understeer, and you can see that Afizul Jai always threw the car in the corner so hard that the rear end starts to come out just a little bit in corner entry, and that's, believe it or not, ideal. And you'll see in the tighter corners the inside rear wheel begin to lift off the track, not so much in these big heavy Kias, but in some of the lighter touring cars it can get quite obvious. Michael Hafiz is doing quite well for himself in second position. We'll love to hear from him, see how things are going for him. It's definitely in his wheelhouse there. But Saif Arifin, who's also quite quick in a front wheel drive car himself, chatting to him about his exploits in the as we see his incident going into the dip. They're very difficult to get that corner right. If you're not on the right racing line, it's very easy to find yourself hitting the wall before you can even see it almost. But that's him down in 11th position. But just before that incident, Saif Arifin quite familiar with the front wheel drive layout car. He's had a little bit of experience in the real world doing track days in a Volvo 850 station wagon, which is quite a nice little BTCC themed car. And the Ilham Halabi there down in 8th. Yeah, he'll want to try and make some positions up. He has Afik ahead of him, and he'll try and close the gap up to as much as possible. But Afik is right behind Zainal Hazim, and it looks like, will he be able to make an overtaking move, stick up through there? Zainal Hazim there trying to defend. He's going to the left hand side of the track, to the right hand side of the track, diving down into the corner. Will this be an outbraking maneuver for Afik? Ilham still right behind him. He goes wide, which gives Danish a chance to try and overtake, and he manages to make that overtaking maneuver work on Ilham Halabi. Ilham still having to get into the groove of driving these touring cars, but it is a relatively long race for this series. Coming up through the top of the hill, Afik Fadlan, they're really pushing hard, trying to get past Zainal Hazim. He almost had a chance going into the cutting there, but now going through the Filmy Park and into the skyline once again. The absolute feeling of just driving off a cliff, as you saw there, just as he went over that brow, you could see nothing but forest when you get up to there. So you have to really learn the turn-in point by heart. One of the many challenges of this rather unique racetrack, which is for about 340 days of the year, is in fact a public road. As you can see on the left hand side there, some of the houses of the people who live here, and that's the reason why when you come out of the Forest Elbow, there's a lot of gaps in the wall. That's literally people's driveways for the majority of the year. But the Bathurst local community very supportive of this racetrack and what it's done to their image in the world stage. But it looks like Ilham Labi having all sorts of tracks, and Danish completely missing his breaking point there. Imam Danish discovering the joys of blind corners in a rather spectacular fashion there, but it looks like his car will be okay and he'll be able to reel those laps in. A lot of these guys will be in it just to try and gain some experience. Some of the drivers will want to try and hone their race craft, and for folks like Afisal Jai and Michael Hafiz up at the front, they just want to win the race. As you can see there, some more of the driveways and the front garden that this rather almost absurdist racetrack sort of goes through the mountains here. Azra Nazi putting a lot of pressure on Afiq, and also on Danish there. It looks like Azra manages to make a double overtaking maneuver, getting himself up into 8th position. That's very spectacular stuff there. Ilham Labi is right ahead. Azra Nazi will now try and push hard to try and catch him, but Afiq behind him, definitely trying his best to stay behind, as close behind to Azra Nazi as possible. Azra Nazi, of course, a very, very talented driver, and he'll be used to these sort of machinery. He's had some front-wheel drive experience as well. A lot of these drivers, of course, in Malaysian motorsports in general, the top series at the moment is the touring car series. So you'll see a lot of the real racing drivers come into their own, I'm sure. Shami Aizan, he's pushing that Snow White Kia as hard as he can. They definitely do look quite good. Almost fits the place. Sort of a mini V8 supercar. Bouncing down the main straight there, coming into the cutting and through the chase. Well, that's listening onto the motors there for a minute and just hear that rather unique 4-pot sing. .375 horsepower being harnessed by a 6-speed X-Track gearbox, fully sequential, just like a V8 supercar or a early GT3 race car, with a lever coming through the middle of the car that the drivers have to push and pull on. So unlike your normal manual road cars, you push forward to go down the gears and you pull to go up the gears. Almost like a motorcycle. For those of you motorcycle riders out there, you'll understand the concept fairly well, and it does allow for very, very high speed, very fast shifts indeed. Azrael Nazli heading up through the hill there. He's still challenging Ilham Alabi, but Ilham has managed to catch up to Zainal Hazim. This looks to be yet another overtaking possibility for these three drivers who've been battling in the midfield for quite a bit. That Ilham getting the car sideways onto the curb there, really sort of dispelling the old myths that these cars understeer. It really depends on how you drive them. You can see that Azrael Nazi trying to get as close as he can to the back of Ilham's car. Only 2/10 separate the two of these drivers, and a big slipstreaming opportunity coming up ahead, but it looks like there's a big accident there. That was Ilham and Hazim. Hazim got the car sideways and into the wall at Forest Elbow, and he took out Ilham Labi as well. Ilham not having the greatest of races so far, but Azrael Lazi managed to make up 2 positions for that mistake. Very good work trying to overtake in those very difficult circumstances. Meanwhile, Shami Ayazan in 5th, getting the car a little bit sideways, going it through there. Kevin Ha there coming down 4th position. He lost a place to Mohaimin, but is still battling for position There could still be a chance for Calvin to regain that position. But he's got to really watch out because Shami Aizan is very close behind now. He's just trying. He's closed up the gap now, and it's now down to Calvin Ha. He's the rather uncomfortable meat in this 3-car sandwich. Shami Aizan really getting very aggressive. This is touring car racing par excellence. You really have to get really aggressive and real close in order to make these overtaking maneuvers work. Shami Aizan pulling out just to let Calvin Ha know that he's there, and Calvin Ha responding in kind by giving him a little bit of space in case he does try and go for that overtaking maneuver. Iman Danish, meanwhile, looks like he has a problem with his car, and unfortunately that looks like it's the end of the race for him, which would be very unfortunate indeed for the newcomer. We have quite a few rookies coming through the field. Afid, Iman Danish, and quite a few more coming up, joining season 2 of the Adrenaline Impact Racing Malaysia Championship. And there is still a chance for you guys, I believe, to try. There's a few more days left in the session. The entries close on 30th of July, so if you guys are interested in joining season 2 of AIMC, do gather your friends, get a team or two set up and join us. The links to all the relevant information will be on the Adrenaline Impact page, and we hope to see you out there racing along with these guys. Shami Aizan, meanwhile, is really pushing Calvin Ha as hard as he can, trying to put a lot of pressure, trying to fill up the mirrors of the car in front, but Calvin Ha is wise to that. He is an old hand when it comes to the touring car circuit here in Asia. He would know about these sort of things, I am sure. Coming up into the final bend there, he's got to be really careful because this is very often an opportunistic overtaking maneuver spot. So we've seen some overtaking maneuvers there that people managed to pull out, but it looks like Shami Aizan managing to make that overtaking maneuver. We're coming into Hell Corner, and that is Shami Aizan up ahead of Calvin Ha as they head up Mountain Straight. Over the brow past all the houses that are up on Mountain Drive, as it is for most of the year. Now diving into the cutting, Shami Aizan there, really big push hard by Calvin Ha. There's not a lot between these two drivers. In terms of performance, they're all lapping at very similar pace, but it looks like Calvin Ha perhaps maybe just using up those front tires a little bit harder. These cars are a lot harder on the tires than the old MX-5s from the first season, so not only will pit lane strategy for fuel. Ooh, Shami Aizan there made a small mistake which led him straight into the wall there. That is a big wreck from Shami Aizan. Let's just have a quick replay of that. Over the crest, the car gets a little bit sideways and he just clips the wall. And that's it for Shami Aizan, just clipping the wall there. Not a lot of room for error there. You can see Ilham Labi got very close as well in the background. But that is Shami Aizan. He's down in 8th. He's succumbed to the pressure perhaps of Calvin Ha looming behind him. And it looks like Calvin Ha also brushed the wall. It looked like Calvin got really close to the wall himself. But indeed he has in fact hit the wall. Yes, you can see the two tires poking out through there. On a track like this, that's not going to help his drag. In fact, it looks like Azrul Nazli might be able to catch up to him. The aerodynamic drag, a big factor in this racetrack, almost more so than downforce. You do need a certain amount of downforce over the top and into the braking zones, but you have to try and live with as little downforce as possible in order to make these cars work. Of course, in the season, these cars will have a fixed setup, so it'll be just driver skill and driver skill alone that can make the difference up. But a little bit of knowledge of the car certainly doesn't hurt. And keeping the car in one piece is going to be very, very important indeed. You can see Azur Mazzi really catching up quite quickly. That's Calvin Ha up ahead, not really in the danger zone just yet, but definitely getting there. Now these touring cars, very sensitive to setup changes, so you have to be really, really keyed in to try and make that work. As we come into the 17th minute of this 30-minute race. That's 13 minutes left to go. And Ilham Labi there, massive comeback to try and get back up to 6th position. This is just one position above where he started, but you can see the car getting really beaten up. And with the touring car, once you have a little bit of suspension damage or wheel alignment issues, you really do struggle quite a bit to try and keep the pace up in the car. And this really is racing by tenths of a second. SRA P911, meanwhile, is a lap down on the leaders. So the leaders have gone past him, Jai and Michael. And he has Iman Danish right behind him. So this is going to be a very interesting battle indeed, shaping up between the back markers. But Iman Danish there, his last few laps are 2 minute 50, not the perfect pace to be in, but definitely try his hardest to try and get out there. Hazim has gone into the pits, and will we see people beginning to pile into the pits in order to try and make it work? I'm sure these guys might be able to make 30 minutes, but it'll be interesting to see if they'll have enough fuel to make 40 minutes of this racetrack. It'll be very, very interesting indeed to see if they can pull that off. As well as they're coming up into 5th position and chasing Calvin Ha still. Calvin being nice and smooth, going onto the running strips there. And it looks like it's gonna be a very interesting battle looming up ahead. It looks like Calvin Ha's car early in the race was starting to go away from him a bit, but the car might be coming back to him. Fuel loads are going to be very, very interesting in these cars. The MX-5, the car is fairly well balanced, it's fairly consistent throughout the fuel load, but in these cars, the fuel tanks further back, they do actually affect the handling of the car. So the lighter the car gets, the quicker it's going to go. But of course, you're going to have less tire grip, so not only are you going to end up going quicker, the car's going to handle a little bit better, but it won't hold the road as well. You lose grip. So it's going to be very interesting to try and work that out from a strategy point of view. As Michael Hafiz there, he's 2.3 seconds behind the race leader, Afizul Jai, and as you can see, the car is just struggling a little bit with understeer going through Forest Elbow. A car that works well around Bathurst might not work quite so good in the cutting and in Forest Elbow, the two sharpest corners on the racetrack. It looks like Michael Hafiz is starting to gain a little bit on Afizul Jai. Will he have enough time? There's 10 minutes left in the race, and it'd be interesting to see within those 4 or 5 more laps whether he'll be able to catch Afizul Jai or not. But it looks like he's really catching up quite a bit there. Is Jai backing off? Is he trying to maintain a decent speed, make sure he's got the right sort of tyre and the right sort of fuel load in order to be able to counter-attack when the time comes? It really does remain to be seen, but it looks like they are backing off quite a bit. It might be that Afizul Jai has just been sort of cruising to maintain the grip levels of his car, whilst Michael has been pushing as hard as he can to try and catch up. So that's the reason why that gap has gone down very, very quickly indeed. Ilham Halabi, meanwhile, coming into the final bend there. Obviously, a bit of a mistake from him. He just goes a little bit wide. Then into Hell Corner, so named because it's such an abrupt 90-degree bend that if you get it wrong, it can be really quite bad indeed for him. Coming up through the hill there, pushing the car as hard as he can. Azrael Nasli is meanwhile just directly behind Calvin Ha. These guys have been fighting for position for almost the majority of the race there. Azrael, Calvin Ha just one position down from where he started and doing very well for himself. You can see him really sliding the car through McPhillamy Park. Really, the base setup seems to be working quite well for Calvin Ha. Almost drifting the car over Skyline there, and just about managing to get the car gathered up for the dipper. And yeah, that must have been a real wild ride for Calvin going down the hill here. You sort of forget when you're in a battle how difficult this place is to drive, even when you're alone in the car. Trying to get a quick lap time around here is a challenge in and of itself. Doing so when you're being chased by no less a man than Azrael Nasli really is a very heavy challenge indeed. But there we see Calvin Ha really throwing the car into the inside of the corner there. He's obviously outbraked himself, but Azrael Nasli has outbraked himself as well. That is the trouble when you're following a car. You can sort of get hoodwinked, and it looks like Ilham Labi has managed to make it through into 4th position. So that is really fortunate for Ilham. Calvin Ha there outbraked himself coming into the chase, trying to pull away from Azrael, and Azrael just had target fixation there, and he braked in the same place as Calvin Ha, and it all ended up in tears for those two drivers. They managed to let Ilham Halabi up into 4th position, and that is a remarkable comeback from him, considering he just about made it into this server here. But meanwhile, battle for the lead, Michael is slowly gaining on Afizul Jai. Will this be a heart-stopper of a finish? It looks to be the case. It's just over a second now, but once it goes below that 1 second mark, you can really start to see the cars. Michael can see the he can see the lead, he can see the head of the field, and no doubt Jai Bluebird, as Afizul Jai is known to his friends and in the drift community, he will be able to see Michael behind him as well. So this is going to be absolutely epic battle coming up there. You can see Afizul Jai locking up his wheels just a little bit coming into the corner there, and Michael again has gained a couple of tenths of a second. Now it's going to be a case of, in this last 5 minutes, will he have enough time to try and catch up? So this is absolutely amazing stuff. Afizul Jai obviously has responded. He had backed off quite a bit to try and preserve tyres and fuel loads, I presume. And it looks like Michael has taken advantage of that fact and really pushed hard. Jai has responded and started to drive quicker, but it looks like it might be a little bit too late, as Michael now can see the lead of the race right in front of him. Afizul Jai there running a little bit wide. That has not helped him out at all, and now it looks like Michael is going to be in the position to battle for the lead. Now coming up Mountain Straight, there's only 0.15, 0.14 seconds in between, and you can see how close it is. Michael Hafiz can sense the lead. Now all he has to do is get a good run over the top of the mountain, heading up into the cutting, which is the sort of the polar opposite of the Forest Elbow on the other side of the track there. Michael likes to take a slightly wider line coming into the corner, but that gives him a lot of traction and a much nicer line to line up those front tyres and put down that 370 horsepower on the exit of the corner. Losing a little bit of ground between himself and Afizul Jai, but of course Michael now is in drafting zone. He'll be able to draft up to the back of Afizul Jai if he can keep as close as he can on this section of road, down through Skyline into the dipper. Just having to manage the understeer a little bit there. Michael just dropping back a little bit. Afizul Jai looks to be very, very quick through that particular section, but it looks like Michael can get closer on the faster sections of the track, and of course that is just the fact that he can gain that slipstream. Now coming up to the chase, will Conrad Straight be enough, or will he need a few more corners to try and make things work? You can see how close Michael can get just in one straight. The fact that Michael can put the power down to the road much earlier than Jai, and the fact that he has the slipstream, means that it looks like Michael is in the position to battle for the lead. This will be an absolutely big chance for him. Michael there having a quick look up the inside. That scared Jai there. After Michael going for the overtaking maneuver, and it looks like it's managed to put the fright on Afizul Jai there. That's the oldest trick in the touring car book. Looked like he agreed to go for a massive overtaking maneuver. Michael managed to sell the dummy, and it looks like not only did Afizul Jai fall for it, but unfortunately he left the road and let Mohaimin through as well. So not only has Michael gone into the lead, but Mohaimin is now in second position, able to try and fend off Afizul Jai as much as possible. So that is a big boon for Michael's chances to try and win this race. He'll be absolutely delighted, as we know, and definitely the team play is going to come in clutch here. Mohaimin is going to try his hardest to keep Afizul Jai not the slowest man on track, that's for sure. So Mohaimin has to really try and put that barrier up and help Michael achieve that victory. But it looks like Michael definitely, once he's clear of Afizul Jai, can definitely put the hammer down and really push hard to try and gain that gap to Afizul Jai. Again, he's got a car in between himself and Jai, so how it all changed in one corner. Muhammad Mohaimin, that he's pushing as hard as he possibly can to try and keep second place, and unfortunately he's hit the wall, and that looks like it's got a little bit of damage, and that's let Afizul Jai go up ahead. But Afizul Jai there locking up his wheels, and it looks like Mohaimin might be close enough to try and get that slipstream coming onto the Conrad Straight. This is all happening right at the end of the race there. 10 seconds to go. This looks to be the last lap, and it looks like the Toyota Motorsports guys might have done it. Now, the only question is, will Mohaimin be able to overtake Afizul Jai coming into the final few bends into the chase? A big overtaking point here. Afizul Jai really pushing the car as hard as he possibly can to try and run away from Mohaimin, but Michael Hafiz is going to round the final bend, and for the first time he is going to go and gain that win. And it looks like Muhammad Mohaimin is just not close enough to get that second place from Afizul Jai, but Ilham Labi completes the 1-3-4 for Toyota Motorsports. They have had a fantastic race. Indeed, works engineer Azra Nazali goes into 5th position. Kevin Ha, unfortunate for him, he had that damage. He comes in into 6th, and Afik Fadlan into 7th position. Saiful Arifin, not the fastest race for him, but I'm sure he'll be able to push that car a little bit harder in 8th. And Iman Danish in 10th position. Shami Aizan is in the pits. It will remain to be seen if Iman Danish will be able to gain that 9th or 10th position. We'll just double check that fairly shortly, but Sharil Norafudian is for sure in 11th position. Unfortunately, Mavinijit Singh was not able to finish the race, neither was Zainul Hazim, so that's very unfortunate for those two drivers. But that is absolutely amazing stuff. And Michael won! Spectacular stuff there from Major Hafiz, who, for those of you guys who have been with us since the days of the Invitational races, where he used to join me in the commentary booth doing our bilingual commentary. He used to be our Malay anchor, or Bahasa Melayu anchor, and but that is, I believe, his first win in one of our Adrenaline Impact races. It is a practice race, but that's going to give him a lot of confidence coming up ahead. Whew.
It's been a night, Matt.
Yeah.
So I can't stay long for this. So thank you guys for watching. This is our
Alright.
first time doing a double race coverage.
Yeah. Hai Bacil.
Halo.
Ui, menang.
Hare.
Apa perasaan dapat menang juga? Masa live stream lagi.
Oh, masa live eh?
Ya.
Tak, aku maintain belakang Jai. Tak expect pun Jai akan tayar akan habis, akan haus. So ingatkan memang nombor 2 lah kan, tapi cuba maintain tak ada accident je lah.
Ya.
So sikit Jai cakap tayar dia makin habis dekat Discord kan. So okay, rapat tengok last lap Jai terlajak chance untuk potong kan. Clean overtake.
Ya.
So okay lah. First time saya menang.
Mesti rasa macam Schumacher pula
Macam tak logik pun je kat menang ni.
Alright lah. So untuk season 2 nanti macam mesti akan rasa confident nak masuk.
Ada confident lah sikit, tapi untuk nonton orang malas sebab ni dah practice daripada hari tu kan. Start bila Uncle Racing Team buat poster
Yeah.
tu dah join dia.
Okay, Matt. We have to wrap the stream.
Oh, tengah live eh?
Ya, dekat live lagi.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Tanya
that's
Acil.
it. That's it from Khairul Alang. That's it from our winner, Major Hafiz. Hooray.
Yo. Thank you. Hooray!
Alright, and that's it from me, Matthew Palmer. I will see